are welcome to share your story and inspire others. I am Fiona Brennan, your host. I'm a personal success coach, founder of Inspire Action Success, and here in conjunction with Global Maps Events, I share with you beautiful stories from heart-centered entrepreneurs around the globe. This show is for entertainment purpose only, and the views of our guests are not necessarily the views of Inspire Action Success or MAPS Global Events. Enjoy. Hey everybody, how are you? Today is the 1st of November 2021, and I am joined today in my speakers conversation, which is all about sharing your story to inspire others. And we're having these conversations as part of the Global MAPS event group that has been initiated by the wonderful Elaine Sugar over in the States. And Elaine, I suppose, has created this group in order to increase the wellness and affirmations and health and wellness for everybody. Anyone who needs some help and support right now, we are creating a lot of I suppose help and support that is out there free for people who need it. So today, as part of Share Your Stories, is all about listening to a story of somebody who has gone through adversity, who has been on, a challenging side of things, and has taken it from being stuck and maybe lost and feeling hopeless into a more inspirational end result. And today, Libby Steggles-Ginn is going to share her story. So welcome, Libby. Thank you for being the first up and a real test for us now this morning with technology. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Great. Oh, I'm delighted. So Libby, you are a coach and healer, and you work with children. And I know you have a business all around coaching and supporting children. But say just for now, just to get us started for the first few minutes, just tell me a little bit about, go back a few years maybe, and just share, I suppose, the beginning of your story with us.
So the beginning of my story, I'll go back all the way back to childhood then, where I was quite shy little girl. And I had a lot of illnesses, nothing serious, but I would be off school a lot. If there was a cold going around, I would tend to get it worse. Had tonsillitis a lot, tonsils removed, quite all of those things going on for me. So missed quite a little bit of schooling really. And then I hit my teens, and I think it was around about the age of 12 or 13, and I became ill, and nobody knew what was wrong with me. So I had some tests, doctors, wanting to see me, and they wondered whether it was glandular fever. And I was in bed for around 3 months. So I was off school for 3 months and just felt really ill. And I think looking back on it, it was like a depression, but I say in those days, I'm not that old, but it was like nobody really knew about mental health and emotions. And so what they did was they sent it was either a psychiatrist or a psychologist to come and see me in my home. And I was in bed, and I always remember this man walking into my bedroom with somebody else with him and my mum. And I think he sent my mum out. So my bedroom was my territory, it was my safe space. And he asked me questions, and I just didn't like his energy. So I just went inward. I went really quiet, couldn't give him eye contact. And then after him being with me for some time, he brought my mum into the room. My mum sat on the end of the bed, and he looked at me. And he just said, "You have got your parents wrapped right round your little finger, and you know exactly what you're doing." And I was just shocked. So I just went inward even more. My barriers went up even more, and I didn't flinch. And I remember he got hold of my hand and he nipped the back of my hands to try and get a reaction out of me. And again, I just didn't flinch. And he said, if you don't get out of bed, then I'm going to take you away from your parents and put you in a children's home. And he said, so I'm going to give you till next week, and you're going to come and see me where I practice. If you don't turn up, I will set the wheels in motion and you will be put into a children's home.
Wow.
So he then went downstairs and spoke with my parents, and he said the same to them. If you don't, she's playing you. She's just wrapping you around her little finger, and she's got you exactly where she wants you, and I will take her away from you and put her in a children's home if you don't get her out of bed. So I did go back to see him, and I always remember it was a Friday morning, and he said, well, you've made it here, so you'll go back to school this afternoon. And bearing in mind, I hadn't been to school for 3 months, and I hadn't been out of the house for 3 months, hadn't been out of my bedroom for 3 months.
Wow.
I hadn't lost my appetite, so I was eating. So I put a lot of weight on. I looked very different. So I remember driving away. I was sat in the back of the car, and I didn't have a very great relationship with my dad, but I begged him not to send me back to school that afternoon. I said, please, I can't. I just can't go back. I don't know how to deal with it. I'll go back on Monday. Just give me the weekend. And he did. And I went back to school on the Monday, and I was in school, out school, in school, out school, because I still wasn't right. And then, rumours started going around the school like, oh, Steggles, she's been pregnant, she's had a baby, because I'd put on weight and all of that. It was just like, oh. And if my dad hadn't have given me the weekend, I don't know what I would have done, because I just couldn't go back to school in that short space of time. So that was that. And then I just got on with it, really, and became a hairdresser, got on with life. And then,
but sorry, Libby, they never actually diagnosed you when you were sick at that time, unwell for those 3 months? Was there ever a conclusion as to what the sickness was?
They didn't know what to do with me.
What was your biggest ailment at that time? Do you remember?
Fatigue, feeling really low, crying when I was by myself. I shut down. I just blocked my parents out. I just couldn't cope with the emotions.
And do you remember, was there anything in particular that actually started that? Oh,
I remember there was, my family life had been pretty turbulent. And I remember there was an argument within the family, and I had such a brilliant afternoon. I was on a high, absolutely brilliant afternoon with my friends, because I'd just started high school, or secondary school as they call it now. And then there was this, when they all went, I was on a high, and there was this big argument. And well, I seemed to go downhill after that. So whether that was the final piece of the jigsaw that just triggered this depression, I'm not sure. But it was just this, I'm calling it depression because I can look back on it now.
Yeah.
What needed to happen was that specialist to come in and say, do you know what? This isn't your stuff. And take that weight off my shoulders and just work with the family, which is what I do now, surprisingly. But he didn't. He threatened to take me away from my family, as in, this is your fault and you are creating this, you're a bad person. Thankfully my mum and dad didn't agree with him, but they didn't know what to do. The power he had, they didn't know what to do. So I had some depression again in my early 20s, when I was again really happy interestingly. I'd met a boy, was really happy, and I became depressed. So and then I was okay again. But my illnesses, I would still tend to come down with something and not be right, or need to have surgery with something. You know, there was a lot of physical ailments going on.
Mm.
And then it was in 1994, I was in a minor car accident, very minor car accident, and I just banged my wrist. I got whiplash, the normal, you know, thing that you get. But my wrist was in a lot of pain, basically. And I was a hairdresser at this point. I was a mobile hairdresser. I used to go driving around and do people's hair.
Yeah.
So I couldn't work. They thought I'd broken the bone. And so I lost my business because of my arm. And because I'd lost my business, broken up from my boyfriend, I went to Australia and had a wild, amazing time, really found myself. You know, I never had understood what finding yourself means. I found myself. I found myself going on a dive with the turtles and the fish, and I came up a very different person. Something happened on that dive. And but I wanted to stay in Australia, but I had to come back because my wrist wasn't right at all. And so I had very simple minor surgery on my wrist to release the tendon. And I woke up in excruciating pain. And to cut a long story short, they didn't quite know what it was that was going on with my wrist, but I developed complex regional pain syndrome, which is a complex pain. It's to do with your autonomic nervous system, the nerves, and your limb becomes hypersensitive with pain. So any air conditioning, any warmth, certain clothes, and my arm froze. It wouldn't move. It just locked in a place. So I couldn't use it. So I spent the next 17 years being drugged up to the eyeballs. I'd had spinal surgery to fit like an internal TENS machine to help me with the pain. Just lost being in the world and being a normal person, really.
And you had no use of the arm during that time?
Couldn't use my arm, but I didn't tell people about it. So only very, very close people to me knew about my arm. So if I did meet somebody, I didn't say, oh, I've got chronic pain or anything. I didn't, you know, bring them into my story. And at this point, I'd met my now husband, and we decided we wanted to have children. So I had to come off all my medication and had my children. And then there was a neurosurgeon that was in Cardiff in Wales, and he designed one of these spinal cord stimulators for my arm just for me, because the one that I had previously wasn't working very well. It was meant for lower back pain. So he fitted this spinal cord stimulator for me so it would help my arm more. And he was amazing. And I remember walking down to theatre and said goodbye to my husband. And I'd already prepared myself that I'd booked myself on a course. So I had mentally prepared myself of, this is going to work. I'm going to do this course and I'm going to get my life back together, because I'd just been this victim of pain.
Had you been working for any of that time at all?
No.
Okay. Not since the hairdressing?
No. So I didn't work for 16, 17 years.
Wow. Okay.
So I had my surgery and the device worked, and I became a coach. So I think it was a couple of weeks after my surgery. So I still had the bandage on the back of my neck. And I went on a free coaching course and I became a coach and learned all about coaching, NLP, and started up my business. And I knew I wanted to work with children. Well, I mean, of course I would want to work with children. And And then in 2012, we'd just moved into this house and I was walking out of this bedroom and my back went. Just literally, I got really bad pain. And the hospital just went, we can't examine you. You've probably slipped a disc. And yeah, you're going to have to go on the waiting list to get physio and all of that. And I was in a bad way. I was on a walking stick. And then I went to see somebody who works with chronic pain about my back. And he said, I think that your back is linked to your arm. And I was like, oh, it's all right. Don't worry about my arm. I just want my back fixing.
Was the arm still in pain at this stage, or had the operation fixed it?
It was in pain, but I had the device, like an internal sense machine, to help me. So he said, basically, you've just accepted that you've got the use of one arm for the rest of your life. How little do you value yourself? And I was like, I'm a coach. Of course I value myself. And he worked with me for about 14 months.
Wow.
Because he said, your body is wanting you to listen to it. And the more you mask your pain, the bigger the pain is going to come in a different area. So he worked with me and we released so much emotional trauma from my childhood. And I got my arm back. My pain went, which,
wow.
You know, it's like, it's one of the most complex conditions of chronic pain that I had. And that really got me thinking and wanting to learn more about our emotions and how they do affect us. And I then wanted to work with the parents as well as the children, because when I work with parents, quite often what's going on with the children disappears.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and what we do as parents is we bring our stuff into our parenting without realizing. So I became pain-free. I learned more, went on different courses, became a Psych K facilitator, and I work with energy, I heal. And whenever there is a physical with myself, I know there's emotional underneath it. And a couple of years ago, I went back to the doctors and I said, look, I've been pain-free for 5 years now. I don't need this device in me because there's a battery.
I was just going to ask you about the device.
Yeah. Can we take it out? And they were like, oh, I don't know, because your pain could come back. And they were really frightened. But I stood my ground and they took the device out for me. So yeah, I have no metal, no battery, no nothing in me now whatsoever. My pain,
the back pain that you experienced that morning when it just hit you in 2012, did that disappear with the work that you did?
All went.
All of it.
All
so
went.
What was the biggest I suppose learning when you went way back and discovered it was everything that you were, the pain all the way back maybe to your appendicitis way back as a childhood? You know, what was the biggest discovery for you that you had no maybe idea was linked to all that pain?
I think that deep down, nothing surprised me. And I learned that, you know, we take on energy, and we quite often take on our parents' energy as well. And I think that I was carrying so much of other people's stuff within the family, that I was just releasing all of that. And with the work, the way that they worked with me, there wasn't necessarily anything specific that we found. We just worked with the pain and the energy and the messages that the pain was giving me and cleared it that way. So there wasn't like an aha moment memory where I was like, oh my goodness, that is at the crux of it. But I think that a lot of it was to do with my dad. He was, you know, bless him, a very powerful man. He didn't know any other way to communicate other than through that way. you know, I've healed around my dad and forgiven him
And actually,
now.
that's a good point, because when you healed yourself and got, managed to clear all your pain
Yeah.
through all the clearance of your emotions, did did you notice any difference then with your parents, say with your dad in particular? Did did your clearing help them in any way?
It will have done. I think sometimes when you heal and it goes back to the people that it originated from, and
Mm.
then they go through a tricky time. Now, whether that happened or not, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, my dad passed away 3 years ago, and I remember when he was dying, I just remember feeling peaceful and that I dealt with everything and that I could be there with him.
Mm.
Years before that, I wouldn't have been able to be, be there with him.
Yeah.
So I would have been too angry. But what I have noticed is the biggest thing that I noticed when I healed myself, I was healing my children. You know, I saw a big difference in my children. That was the most apparent thing for me. It has this ripple effect to people who are close around me. And that's not taking responsibility or anything like that. It's a fact that when, you know, parents, when you go on that journey and you start to heal your stuff and stop getting triggered, when your kids are going through things, it frees your children up so much to go on their journey, their way. So that was the biggest thing for me, was I saw a big difference in my children.
Wow. And so, Libby, your work that you do now as a coach and healer, it is, as you mentioned, all centered around children because of that, and helping parents.
Yeah.
And as you said, you mentioned you do a lot of work with parents. But what is something to share with anyone who's listening here now today? Whether they be a parent or not a parent, or a young person, and they are unwell, or they do feel maybe continuously unwell, or they have headaches or whatever, and it just can't be labeled.
Mm.
Um, what is something that somebody listening can take away or do for themselves? Maybe what's the biggest lesson?
The biggest lesson I would say is that to learn to listen to your body. You know, we as humans, we're conditioned in a way to not like our emotions. It's too painful. We push them down, we move away, we distract, and without us knowing, you know, they build up. Whereas actually, they're not scary monsters. It's a big thing I teach children and help parents to teach their kids. You know, our emotions are really important part of us, whether it's fear that can save our life, whatever it is. And when we sit and connect in with our emotions and feel our emotions, you know, and allow ourselves to feel it, then they can move and be released and come up and come through us. Yeah, it may not feel great, but it doesn't last long. But when we don't do that, they get bigger and stronger and then can create illness.
Yeah.
What I would say, if somebody has got physical symptoms and they're really worried, absolutely go to your doctors about it. But that, you know, there's a holistic way of dealing with, if you've got an issue that keeps on reoccurring, then there is a way that you can help yourself with that, and going inward, definitely going inward and connecting to your body. Our bodies just want to communicate with us.
Yeah, the body is the way of letting you know through its pain or what it's feeling, what's actually going on in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you say about releasing emotions or just feel the emotions, somebody listening who might, just not be in that space, it's as simple as, if you feel sad, just cry.
Yeah.
If you feel angry, yeah, do something physical to get rid of the anger. I don't mean on somebody, but even, go for a fast run,
Yeah.
or, get a punching bag or whatever.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to hide it down, rather than like, oh, I'm a big girl now, I better not be crying, or don't let people see me crying, or shove that down, I'll deal with it later sort of attitude.
Yeah.
There's so much about being positive out there at the moment. you know, be positive, be positive.
Yeah.
But there's a side of that, you know, be positive is great, but it's so important to feel all the other things, because you don't slap the all positivity on it and think, you know, it's all grand. You must go through the emotions, and then move into the positive stage.
Yeah. And I mean, if you get stuck, then okay, look at alternative ways of helping you. And there's so many different tools that can help you if you get stuck with it. But it's an emotion, and it's okay. And if you just literally place your hand where you're feeling it, closing your eyes and allow yourself to feel it, it starts to disperse, or something may come up. Journal it down. You know, if a memory or a message comes up, just journal it. Because if there's fear, then quite often there could be, okay, what is the fear really about? And then you could go a little deeper and journal it, and then you get like, right, okay, I get this. Our brains want to just be logical and want to nitpick and pick it, and it's like, well, why am I like this, and why this? And it's just feel it. Just allow yourself to feel that emotion and be at peace with it and not frightened of it. You know, so many people, and my parents' generation especially, are so frightened of opening up a can of worms. It doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. It's okay to feel our emotions, and it's going to help you to move forward so much more if you allow yourself to do so.
Yeah, it's powerful, Libby. Yeah, no, it's really great. And I really love that you share your story. And I suppose, you know, what stands out for me is the fact that you said there wasn't one particular event. It wasn't like that you had a specific story of something dramatic happening that, you know, created this. It was just, you couldn't pinpoint it, but it was everything. Yet it was, you know. So sometimes, you know, if we don't have the big, you know, a very dramatic story, traumatic story, we kind of think, well, we should be okay. Sure, didn't I have a grand childhood? You know, it was okay, like, you know, okay, I mightn't have ticked all the boxes, but it was all right. But yet within that, there can be stuff that's dripped from other generations. And it mightn't even have been your parents. It could have been a generation before, and that's just something that, you know,
exactly. But like I say, we're always trying to justify it, and we don't need to. I didn't need to know what it was. I just needed to connect to the pain of it, you know, and the emotion of it. And, you know, I'm not going to lie. I would sometimes say, do you know what? It's easier to be in chronic pain than actually go through this, because I had so many years worth stuck inside of me, and it was a very bumpy ride. Really, there was a lot of trauma in there that needed to be released. But I am so glad that I did it, you know, and I am where I am now, and I can help and heal that generational line within families and help other people. It's my purpose, it's my passion, it's why I'm here, why I've gone through what I've gone through, so I can now be here and help other people.
Yeah, fantastic. So Libby, if somebody's listening and they would like to have a chat, maybe to you know, hear more, or even just find out a little bit more about you, you are founder of the Emoji Coach. Is there a place in particular that somebody can look up, like your website or LinkedIn, or where's the best place for someone to
I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram of the Emoji Coach.
At the Emoji Coach.
Yeah. Okay. And my website is theemojicoach.com.
Perfect. Theemojicoach.com. Libby, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here as my first guest. Thank you very much. Again, apologies for the little blips when we started, but hopefully it's gone live somewhere, and we will be on YouTube when it's all recorded. So thank you for sharing your story. And you know, in summary of your story, I suppose, look, you may be in pain, but you don't have to stay in pain.
No.
There is ways through it, and you're not stuck with pain for the rest of your life.
Nobody deserves to be in pain, and
we're not supposed to be in pain.
No.
So if you're in pain, there's something not quite right. So don't sit in the pain. No. You know, go look and get some help. So thank you, Libby. So thank you everybody for listening, and we'll be back again soon. Have a great day, Libby, and everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care. Bye bye.